On today's PMEA's Take Note podcast, we are talking about music education and the music industry, how they connect for your students on today's PMEA's Take Note podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. I'm Mark Espadakis. Thank you for being here with us today. Today we're talking about actually quite a variety of things that have to do with ArtsQuest. You may have heard of ArtsQuest from the Lehigh Valley area, putting on something that many of you may have attended, Music Fest. I'm sure that'll come up in here and so many different things that are in the conversation. So I'm really excited to bring in Marissa Guarriello, who is the director of programming for music, right?
You got it.
At ArtsQuest. Marissa, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So let's start, tell us a little bit about you. How did you get to this position? I know you have a background in music education. In fact, I don't even know what year it was, but where we first met was you were in college and you joined us on Capitol Hill to advocate for music education. Do you remember what year that was?
Oh gosh, probably 2014 or 15.
Okay. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
10 or so years ago. So, you obviously have an interest in and passion for music education, which led you here, but I'll let you tell that part of the story. Give us the who you are piece of the story.
Sure. So most recently, I have been completing my PhD in music education, actually at Indiana University in Bloomington. And what happened was I needed a summer job. I was able to come home over the summers and not complete coursework during that time. And ArtsQuest is in my backyard. I've worked for them many times in seasonal positions for things like summer camp counselors or beverage sellers for Music Fest, things like that. And so I applied for a job in the programming department, working some of their summer shows, and luckily they accepted me. And as I was working that summer job, I went into it thinking like, oh, I've got 2.5 degrees in music education. I know plenty about the music world. I'll be able to do this job no problem. And I quickly found out that was not the case. There was so much that I did not know and I had to learn. And I was really just shocked about how I got through multiple degrees in music without actually knowing much about the music industry. And that really sparked my interest in the intersection, I'll say, between music industry and what we traditionally teach in music education. So when I went back to school, I really started exploring that intersection and how we might connect the two, I guess, a little bit more. In fact, several of you may have filled out a survey for me where I was looking at beliefs of secondary music teachers in Pennsylvania about music administration, music industry, music business topics as a part of the classroom. And then ArtsQuest approached me and they said, after working here for X amount of time, we have this job opening. Would you be interested? We think while your background's not necessarily in music business or industry, you have the right skill set and the right personality for this job. Would you be interested? And I said yes. So now I'm an ABD PhD student. I'm just working on my dissertation, but while I do that, I'm the director of programming for music at ArtsQuest, and I'm really excited about the future of everything going on here.
So yeah, talk to us then about what ArtsQuest is. I think maybe some folks, in the eastern part of the state, Lehigh Valley area, would know it more. But tell us about what it is.
Sure. So ArtsQuest is a nonprofit arts organization in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It actually started out of Music Fest. So in 1984, I believe it was the Chamber of Commerce, specifically Jeff Parks, who was an attorney, I believe. The Bethlehem steel mill was starting to shut down. And that was really the thing that sustained the economy in the area. Bethlehem Steel, second largest steel plant in the country. It built things like the Golden Gate Bridge and the Empire State Building and the majority of the ships during World War II. So it was a huge, huge supporting factor in the community. And when it started to go under, the area was starting to become depressed, essentially. Shops were shutting down, people were leaving, and Jeff Parks basically said, we need to get people into the area. Let's do something. And so they started Music Fest. And the idea was that this festival could help revitalize our Main Street district, which, if you've ever been to Main Street Bethlehem, it worked. The plan worked really well. Main Street's beautiful now. And then as Music Fest grew and grew and grew, it actually turned into ArtsQuest, which is now a full-fledged nonprofit arts organization. And we offer concerts year-round, festivals year-round, as well as visual arts, comedy, education, and outreach, and so many other things as well. Our flagship event is still Music Fest, but we also have Chris Kindlemart, a Blast Furnace Blues Festival, Sabor, we do the Oktoberfest, as well as other things like Taco Fest and our Winter Wine Fest and Market. There's just things happening all the time now that have brought people into our community and continue to put the arts out in the community as well.
I want to come for Taco Fest.
It's so fun.
I don't know what it is. It just sounds perfect. I'm there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what I've witnessed, ArtsQuest is this wonderful template that I wish other communities would take a serious look at and adopt, because maybe some of the pieces that you all do are happening in other communities, but just holistically, what you have done in that area is incredible. I've been to Music Fest several times, for a lot of our I'm sure a lot of our listeners have been there. It's the same weekend as for the marching folks out there, the drum corps folks. It's the same weekend as DCI East.
Yep.
It is the perfect thing to go and do Saturday during the day, if you're at DCI East for 2 nights, or go the full day Sunday. I've done that many times. It is an incredible event, and I just think it's so incredible what you all have done beyond that to create this extra space. And so now you're going a little further. Yeah. So this new kind of music education, music industry project. So I guess a couple questions about that. Why take on this new focus, and maybe just tell us a little bit about what you're doing in this space?
Sure. So the focus came from my personal experience when I thought, as a music educator, I had the keys to potentially educate students, at least minimally, about popular music and the industry. And when I actually started doing it, I realized that was not the case. So on a personal level, I was looking at that for my research. But the other thing that ArtsQuest has done in collaboration with the Bethlehem Area School District, which is the school district we reside in, is they've offered a course called Marketing Music Fest, which is where students in a business course essentially get to learn how to reach out and book bands and market them and hopefully solicit an audience. So they book these bands into Music Fest. So they don't take on like financial risk or anything. Of course, ArtsQuest still assumes all of that. But I started looking at that, and that's actually the subject of my dissertation. And I was like, this is great, but there's so many other school districts out there who are looking for information like this. And obviously we can't have the whole world booking our festivals for us, as much as it would make my job easier. So, how do we give some of this information to the community? Are we in a position to do this? And talking to some of my friends who are still in the public schools, they're looking for opportunities for their newly created popular music or modern band folks to perform. Not necessarily in competitive settings, just have the chance to be in an authentic setting outside of their cafeterias or auditoriums and see what it's like to be a real band. But also they're eager to educate the students on what happens behind the scenes, because the performance is really just one very small part of the whole process. In fact, it's the fastest, and at least on our side, the least amount of work. So these teachers said, can we come take a tour? Can you come talk to our students? And it got to the point where we had to say, we'd love to do this, but there's too many people asking us to do it. Can we consolidate somehow? And that's how we ended up creating a music industry day, where we're welcoming over 200 students from the region to come take a tour and learn about music industry studies. That's how our Next Gen Live Festival, which is in May, was created, where several bands from primarily Bucks County are coming up to perform for the day. And then from all of that, we said, but what about the teachers? Like, let's give some professional development to them as well. So we're starting a 2-day conference on the front end of Music Fest, where you can come and learn about popular music, music industry, business strategies at large for the first part of your day. And then you can go enjoy the festival and see all of those things we talked about during the day in action in the evening. So we're excited to wade into this new territory. For me, it's very exciting because it connects directly to the research I'm doing. And I always love when research directly connects to practice. And I've been telling all of my teacher friends that my current job is almost like all of the extra stuff that, beyond teaching, that we were trying to do as a high school orchestra director and didn't have the time or resources to do. It's so nice to be in a job where I have the support with both, people and money and time, and we have people who are eager to be a part of it as well. So it's really exciting for us.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to talk about these careers outside of, I think in a lot of instances, teachers and maybe even students also see the careers in music are being the performer on the stage or being a music educator.
Yep.
And so you're talking about, like, let's look at when a band tours, look at every piece of that puzzle. Before I came to this position, I worked in the music products industry, and there's a focus there too to say, look, as you look at a company that makes a clarinet or a guitar, look at all of the people that it takes to make that happen, not only on the design side in the of the instrument or whatever it is, but just to run a business. And it's important for students to realize you can still love and be part of music, but maybe you're an accountant at one of those big companies, or a small company, whatever, but it's something that makes music products in some way. You are still involved in it in some way, but maybe you're the accountant, and that is awesome, and that is cool. So I really appreciate that what you guys are trying to do to help promote that as well.
Yeah, and we found kind of two things. The first thing was that the process of how students were ultimately ending up in careers other than performance and education was happening backwards. So they were getting their degrees in performance or education, and then for whatever reason it wasn't working out or it wasn't for them, and then they were pursuing certificates or master's degrees in arts administration to go find if there was a place for them on the business side of the industry. And that was really interesting to me, because I kept thinking, if we just presented this information to students before they got to college, maybe they wouldn't have pursued this original degree and spent all of that time and effort only to ultimately end up here. Not that there's anything wrong with that or that particular journey, but if we're not talking about it in high school settings or middle school settings, then people don't know it exists, and that's part of the problem, in my opinion. But then let's see, hold on, there was another one and I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
Sorry.
If you get it, bring it back. But as you talk about the importance of these career paths, like in Pennsylvania now, students are required at different grade levels to say, this is the path we're on for career exploration. And so every teacher now has to start thinking about this more. Every administrator has to start thinking about this more. And what does that benchmark mean? And I don't know if you're familiar. Like, at PMEA we have this crescendo student conference that we
Yep.
do, and we have really tried to bring in this idea of, let's talk to somebody who has one of these other careers. And it amazes me. It should not continue to amaze me, but it does, how many students are like, wow, I had never thought of that. I had never considered that that is a really viable career option for me, and I would still get to do what I want to do. So this exposure and what you're able to do then as young as possible is huge.
Yeah, and the other point came back to me. It actually ties in well to this point you're making, and that's the students who aren't traditionally considered to be high achieving or successful in ensembles. Like, this is also a really great place for them because they're not necessarily lacking any um, information about music. They're just not sitting concertmaster or whatever. And these positions can really attract those students because you need to be knowledgeable about music and you need to be passionate about music. And just because you're not making regions and state doesn't mean you aren't any of those things. And so presenting these options to students as well really provides a potential place for those students to keep them in music and engaged in music in other ways. So yeah, absolutely.
And that I really think should be the philosophy of music education. That it is not about
Yeah.
creating the first chair clarinet, because we all cannot create the first chair all-state clarinet player, whatever. Like,
Yep.
and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's just one thing that can be done. So to point this out, and to offer some more programming is really important. So what do you see as the future of this then, as this grows, as you're adding things to it? What does this look like down the road?
Yeah, I mean, for ArtsQuest in particular, I hope that we continue to see growth in these programs. In general, I hope that, first of all, we have a successful first year. Our Music Industry Day, which is geared at students, like I said, we have over 200 students coming to join us. So we hope that's a really great day. But the Music Fest conference, obviously, we want to see interest from the teachers, and we want not only for them to attend, but provide us feedback so that we can continue to mold and adapt to the needs of what's happening in education, and the kind of progressive music education as well. How can we continue to educate and share what we're doing, and as we're adapting and changing, continue to share that knowledge
So
as well.
let's talk about then, where can people find out information about Music Industry Day, about the conference? Can people still get involved in those things? When and where, all that info?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the Music Industry Day, if you're interested in attending that, first of all, it's a $150 flat fee for as many students as you'd like to bring. So super accessible in terms of price. You can find that information on the SteelStacks website, which is just steelstacks.org, or you can email me, which is mguarriello@artsquest.org. I'm happy to give you all of the information. We still do have some space available. In terms of the Music Fest conference, if you go to musicfest.org, it's one of the selections right on the front page, and there you can sign up to register for both days or one day. And one of the other really great things about being a part of this conference is that we are selling general admission tickets to our headlining shows those evenings for a complete steal of a price. So if you're part of the conference, you can also get really cheap tickets to the concert. But we're also accepting proposals still if you would like to come join us as a presenter. That's open until, I believe, the end of April. I want to say April 26th off the top of my head. And we're looking for sessions related to popular music education, music industry education, and business leadership skills more broadly, more generally. So if you want to be a presenter, we are trying to make that also as accessible as possible. So if you are accepted to be a presenter, you're not required to pay to be a part of the conference, which is, at least in my experience, a unique little benefit. But if you're an emerging researcher or a grad student and you think this might be a good fit for you, hopefully that's a little bit helpful as well. But yeah, we also have our headliners listed there, and we're really excited to welcome Alen Barker from Indiana University, Sarah Gulish, who's the CEO of Flat Books, Jose Valentino Ruiz from the University of Florida, Clint Randalls from the University of South Florida, Kat Reinhardt, who's from New York. She's a singer-songwriter. So we already have some really great names lined up, and we're really excited to add other local regional folks to that list as well.
Yeah, so I just think this is such a great offshoot of what Music Fest and ArtsQuest has done. I think this is a well-needed thing and will be a great template, for people around the country to potentially do the same thing. So, Marissa, thank you so much for taking some time to talk about this. And I know that we will continue to promote what you all are doing. So PMEA members, you'll see this in future email newsletters and on social media, because this is a great thing. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you all for joining us on this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, the Grove City College Department of Music. We'll see you next time.